in the month of Ramadan. So Ramadan, ikhwani, is the month of the inzal of Allah Ta'ala for His wahi upon the Anbiya and upon the Rasul salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhim ajma'in. They are connected. Or else, why would Jibril not come in another month? He could have come in another month, as Abdullah ibn Abbas, he said, كان رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم أجود الناس وكان أجود ما يكون في رمضان حينما يلقاه جبريل وكان جبريل يأتيه في كل ليلة من رمضان. He used to come to him every night of Ramadan. Why wouldn't Jibril come in the month of Muharram, the Shahrullah Muharram? Why wouldn't he come in Rajab? Why wouldn't he come in Dhul Qa'dah or Dhul Hijjah, the 4 months that are Muharram? Why wouldn't he come in those months? They're virtuous. He came in the month of Ramadan to go over the Quran because the month of Ramadan is the month of the Quran. To the point where the companions themselves, may Allah be pleased with all of them, they used to make the irtibat or the rabt, they would connect their mundane affairs with the recitation of the Quran in the month of Ramadan. When they asked the companion, Zayd ibn Thabit radiyallahu anhu, he was one of the ulama of the Quran. As a matter of fact, he was the Ra'is. He was the one who was responsible for the lejna of bringing this Quran together as we have it right here. During the khilaf of Abu Bakr radiyallahu anhu, Umar, Abu Bakr, they both decided, after a number of the Muslims were killed, who were the Hufad of the Quran, if we don't bring this Quran together in a Mus'haf form, maybe the Quran is going to be lost. So they chose Zayd ibn Thabit, young man, to be the one to be responsible for bringing that Quran together the way we had it. Some of the Tabi'een, they asked Zayd ibn Thabit, how much time did it take for the Prophet ﷺ to establish the Salat of al-Fajr from the time that the adhan of as-suhoor, there were 2 adhans during his time. He said that it took the time that it would take a person to read 50 ayat of the Quran. He could have easily said it took 15 minutes, half of an hour, it took so much time. He said the amount of time that it takes for a person to read 50 ayat of the Quran, which goes to show, ikhwani, how they used to connect the mundane affairs. The mundane affairs. How much time does it take for an individual to eat his suhoor before the iqamah before the adhan of al-Fajr? So they used to connect these issues. So now the question is, as it relates to the Quran, where are you and where am I after a third of the month has passed in terms of the recitation of the Quran? The month of the Quran. The month of Quran is Ramadan. Let us take a look at the people who serve as our examples, the pious predecessors, starting with the companions themselves. Our mother Aisha radiyallahu anha, who was from the ulama of the companions. She just wasn't an ordinary woman, she was from the ulama of the companions. If the month of Ramadan came, when it came, she would ask the people, anyone who has some of the Quran written, can you please bring it to me? No one would refuse to give it to her because she was from the Ummuhat al-Mu'mineen. They would bring her the paper. She would read from the Quran after Salat al-Fajr until the sun came up, and then she would sleep and take her rest, wake up and go on with her day. But that was her portion of reading the Quran from the actual papers that were present. She made it a point to do that every day in the month of Ramadan after Salat al-Fajr. In addition to that, everyone knows that Imam Malik, some of us are Malik in our madhab, and Imam Malik, if Ramadan came, and Imam Malik would stop teaching the people, keeping in mind that he was in Medina, teaching in the Rawdah, and people used to come to Medina in order to take from this tremendous, illustrious Imam. In the month of Ramadan, people knew, don't go to Medina to learn from an Imam Malik because he's not going to make any tahdith of the hadith. He's not going to sit with the ulama, nor would he even sit with the Khalifa. And Imam Malik used to do what in the month of Ramadan? After stopping all of his classes, he would take the Mus'haf and he would start to read the Mus'haf. although Imam Malik memorized the Quran, not only did he memorize the Quran, but he was unparalleled, second to no one when it came to his ability to memorize. As well as Aisha. She memorized the Quran. So why does she need to look on the papers to read the Quran? They did that, Ikhwani, because of something that many people neglect and fail to realize, especially people who read Arabic. The Prophet told us, sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wa sallam, "Man sarrahu an yuhibba Allah wa rasulahu, falyaqra min al-mushaf." Whoever is pleased to be an individual that loves Allah and His Messenger, then let him read from the Mus'haf. So although Aisha had the ability to read from her head, and Imam Malik had the ability to read from his mind, from his own hymn, they used to sit down and they would read the Quran, because in picking up the Quran and reading the Quran, reading from the Mus'haf, there's some benefit that comes from that. And one of the benefits is it will give the person the love of Allah Azza wa Jal and His Rasul. Man sarrahu an yuhibba Allah wa rasulahu falyaqra fil mushaf. Anyone who is pleased to be a person that loves Allah and His Messenger, then let him read from the mushaf. So those are two glaring examples of the people of the past. And Imam Sufyan al-Thawri, one of the tremendous scholars of Islam, in the month of Ramadan, the people said about Sufyan al-Thawri, we barely saw Sufyan al-Thawri even make the nawafil pray. He used to avoid doing everything from the ibadat, and he would turn his attention totally, absolutely to the recitation of the Quran. And he felt reading the Quran was more virtuous. After the adhan, he wouldn't get up to make the nawafil. He would remain where he was and he read the book of Allah. No lessons, he wouldn't write anything, just totally, absolutely being connected and committed to reading the book of Allah in the month of Ramadan. This was the way of the people of the past. So as it relates to the people who are here today, we like to encourage you brothers and to encourage you sisters, what has passed from the last 10 days, where maybe we haven't taken advantage, total, complete advantage of the days that Allah Ta'ala blessed us with, doesn't mean that a person should continue on the path of avoiding the Quran in the month of Ramadan. Because as I said, if the individual cannot engage in the recitation of the Quran in the month of Ramadan, he's going to find it extremely difficult to read the Quran correctly in other months. As it relates to the recitation of the Quran, there's a scholar in Islam by the name of Ibn Rajab al-Hanbali. He was one of the students of Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah ta'ala. And Ibn Taymiyyah was an ayah from the ayat of Allah Azza wa Jal. One of his main students was Ibn Rajab al-Hanbali. He wrote a book that the Talib al-Ilm la yastaghni anhu. Allah has blessed the individual who speaks Arabic, and that the key of the language, the key of the religion is in your language. And there are certain books that the student of knowledge, he can't do without because they're so important. One of those books is the book that was written by Ibn al-Qayyim, Ibn al-Rajab. The book is called The Ta'if al-Ma'arif. And in this book, Imam Ibn al-Rajab, he wrote about what the companions and the tabi'un and